What's that? Greetings, everybody. This is Kate Hurley speaking to you live from Million Cat Central. And I want to start out today just with some thank yous. First of all, thank you all for being here and taking time out of your busy day, whether you're listening to this live or listening to this virtually sometime in the future. It's great to have you with us. And I want to thank Maddie's Fund, both for giving us this webinar platform today and also for making the Million Cat Challenge possible with their generous support and allowing us to bring all you amazing people together with the amazing visionaries who are creating so much positive change for cats and shelters. This is a special one for me. I had the privilege of seeing Rachel Finney present this live at the Midwest Veterinary Conference in Columbus, Ohio last year, and we've been scheming to try and bring her back for the Million Cat Challenge ever since. Rachel joined the Capital Area Humane Society in 2008 as the Director of Operations and quickly transcended to become the Executive Director in 2012. Before that, she brings a wealth of experience, including being the Director of the Union County Humane Society. She's a member of the Board of Directors for the Ohio Federated Humane Societies. She's an active member of the SAWA Animal Welfare Administrators, and she achieved the glorious title of Certified Animal Welfare Administrator in 2006 and holds bachelor's degrees in political science and nonprofit management. So all that impressive work she brought to the Capital Area Humane Society, where I actually first visited before her time about 10 years ago, and things were grim, and cats were housed in the back of the dog wards, and it was loud, and it was dank, and it was dark, and the chance for a cat leaving alive at that point was less than 1 in 4. And I liked the Midwest Veterinary Conference, so I've been back to visit every couple of years ever since then, and I was so happy at all the positive change I saw. And the cats moved out of the dog wards, and they got better housing, and they got better practices in place and moved them through faster, and they looked so much happier. But still, as it turns out, they have the potential to do so much more and so much better. And that's really what I love about the Million Cat Challenge is it brings us these stories that turned out so much better than what we even thought that they could. And especially what I love here is that Rachel and her team have brought together alternatives to intake and managed admissions in a way that doesn't make them just sort of tolerated by the public, but makes them like the pinnacle of customer service. Mm-hmm. And I think that's amazing. So Rachel, thank you so much for being here and sharing your success and all that you've learned. Before we totally launch, one tiny bit of housekeeping. We're going to reserve the last 15 minutes or so for Rachel to answer any questions. But you can submit questions as they arise during the webinar using the Q&A box that's in the left-hand column. So go ahead and ask questions as they occur to you, since we might not have time to answer questions asked at the last minute. So anytime something comes up that you'd like to ask about, go ahead and type it in right away, and we'll queue it up for Rachel. So Rachel, take it away.
All right, good deal. Thank you, everyone, for signing up for the webinar. I am so excited to do this presentation with you and so grateful for the opportunity, so thank you. Today we're going to talk about our diversion programming and some truly creative ways that we've offered additional programming to our community so that we can get to the end goal of helping animals and their people. So I'm going to move through our information fairly quickly today. I do want to encourage you to ask questions as you go, type out the questions as you go, and then we'll have opportunity to answer them at the end. I'm a complete and total feedback junkie, and it's very difficult for me to do this presentation and not see your smiling faces or your eyes rolling. So there's a couple of points during our presentation today where I'm going to ask you for some feedback. I'm going to go ahead and actually test that out right now. So if in a second here, you're going to see a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I'd like for you to give me a thumbs up if your weather is bright and sunny, and a thumbs down today if you're rainy. So go ahead and do that. Just make sure it works. So thumbs up if it's sunny, thumbs down if it's rainy where you are. You guys are doing a good job. Okay, looks like we're just even. We've got some good weather and some bad weather. Thanks for humoring me on that one. Tell you a little bit about our organization. So who the heck are we? The Capital Area Humane Society was founded in 1883. So we have 133 years experience of doing things well and not so well. And I like to think that we learn from our mistakes and keep getting better and better with age. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So I'm guessing that we have a mix of municipal agencies and nonprofits on the call. Definitely think about how the presentation today would impact your organization and what questions you have about your unique situation. Definitely want to hear about that from you. Our organization serves about 8,000 animals a year, and we serve 3 times more cats than dogs. If you're sitting at your computer screen and scratching your head going, what the heck, how do they have 3 times more cats than dogs? Well, in the central Ohio area, excuse me, we serve Franklin County, which is where the capital of Ohio is. And our county has a municipal agency that serves just dogs. So they serve about as many dogs as we have total population. So because we have another agency that handles a huge volume of dogs, we don't see as many of them at our facility, but we are the largest facility for cats in our community. All right. Our organization has a budget of about $2.7 million annually, and close to 94%, actually almost 95% of that budget and the revenue comes from donations and fees for services like adoption. So this is heavily funded by fundraising income. We have 50 staff members on our team, and we have about 550 active volunteers. They serve 43,000 hours a year, so we have a very active volunteer base. Okay. This is the fun time in the presentation where I'm going to tell you a super sappy story, kind of famous for it. So I'm in my, let's say, late 30s at this point. I'm going to take you all the way back to 4th grade. I love to write stories, and it's actually true of me as a human being today. I love to tell stories. I like to write stories. But back in 4th grade, I was actually working on a series of stories about cats of all things, which is kind of funny now that you know me today. And I was a pretty passionate kid. And my 4th grade teacher came up to me one afternoon as we were working on or writing our creative stories. And he noticed that I had a blank page in front of me. He said, "Rachel, what's going on? You love to write." Everybody else was kind of fast at work, and I was really struggling. He said, "You know, I have an idea in my head, but I'm not sure it's perfect yet." And I was really struggling with coming up with the concepts to get it just exactly right because I care about accuracy and I care about the detail. And he said something that has made an impact on me for the rest of my life. He said, "Rachel, the point is not the point. This is actually where the magic happens. It's the eraser." He told me to just get started, get it on paper, and the story will become your own when you take the opportunity to make it better. When you scratch out, when you erase the things that are not working and you enhance it and you make it better. That has really been my philosophy this entire time in animal welfare is, yes, the point is important, but it's not where the magic happens. So let's get started, let's see how we're doing, and then let's make it better as we go. The story's not over until you say it's over. And for the Capital Area Humane Society, the story is pretty much always at the beginning. So here's why we had to change. Before we implemented our revision, which is the program title for this initiative that we're talking about today, our methodology was very much open admission in its traditional sense. One size admits all. Pretty much anybody that showed up, really almost any time of the day, any day of the week, could come in and say, "I found this cat, this is my cat of 13 years, these are the issues," and sort of just hand it over. Of course, there's TLC and questions in that process where we took time to get to know families, but ultimately we were taking, when I came to the organization in 2008, 10,000 cats a year. And there wasn't even that much time for deep conversations. You could have a waiting room of 14, 15 people with children and dogs barking and cats that were just found outside who didn't come in a carrier. It could be pretty hectic. And we offered the very same services to every person and every animal that came in. Well, ultimately, this is what that looks like. This is a diagram of our placement rate as a percentage starting way back in 2004. So these are percentage of live releases for the cats who came to us for the potential at rehoming. Our organization does owner-requested euthanasia, and those cats are not in these numbers. So if you look at 2004, you see we had a 14% placement rate for our cats. And I mentioned I came in 2008. At that time, we were serving about 10,000 animals, and the placement rate was right around 24%. Excuse me, it was 10,000 cats, not 10,000 animals. So you can see pretty dismal, right? In 2013, we were at 32%. So on the one hand, we had more than doubled our placement rate in 10 years. And absolutely no one was okay or satisfied with 32%. Had we made progress? Sure. Was it the progress that we wanted? No. And were we okay with only kind of eking forward 1 or 2 percentage points better than the year before? Nope, we sure weren't. So 32% of what? Well, I told you that was live releases, but we might agree that everybody does live releases a little bit differently around the state, despite our very best efforts to try to control that. So 32% of our live release, you can really see how we calculate that. It's based on outcomes. Okay, I know there's a lot of different ways to do it. This is the way that that number was derived. Total live releases of adoptions, transfer out to rescue groups, and return to owner or finder. And we take that total number and divide it by the number of adoptions, rescues, return to owner, and all of the euthanasia for cats that came to us for potential at rehoming. Okay, I'm going to ask now for a thumbs up or a thumbs down if that makes sense to you. So if those numbers, that 32 calculation seems to make sense, do a thumbs up. And if that's pretty darn confusing and I need to spend more time on it, thumbs down. All right, looks like you guys got that pretty well. Okay. So when we started our kind of massive push for changing things, it was back in the very beginning of 2014 when we had finished our very best ever record placement of 32% for cats. I do want to let you know that a lot of this concentration was on cats simply because our placement rate for dogs and for other species was outstanding, very high. It's currently 86% and it's hovered around that for the last probably decade. So the emphasis really was on cats because of the number we were taking in our success rate or failure rate. So here's the baseline data for 2013. We took in 6,252 cats for a potential at rehoming. Again, this doesn't include the cats that would come in for owner-requested euthanasia or were coming in simply for a veterinary procedure. These are the cats that were stray, owner surrender, and looking for a potential at a new home. We averaged 17 cats per day admitted back in 2013. 2,001 left alive that year. We averaged 3.5 hours of staff time euthanizing cats every single day. And again, that didn't include the owner-requested euthanasia cats. We spent 2,779 care days on cats that were euthanized for a medical condition. So our organization had a policy at the time to hold stray cats for a potential at being reclaimed by their owners. The state of Ohio doesn't require that. We don't have animal control for cats, so that was a self-imposed 2 to 3 day hold, depending on whether or not they looked like they were owned. So these are animals who had a medical condition that wasn't suitable for our organization's placement or adoption program and were housed for several days before being euthanized. So 2,779 care days on cats with medical conditions. Okay, so we recognized that we definitely wanted to change something, but we were really struggling with how exactly do we do what we want to do and what are the consequences of that, of those actions. If we limit admissions, And that's kind of the easy go-to button, and I say easy with in jest because we all know how easy it is to change. But if we limited admissions, where are those cats going to go? Are these going to be unserved animals? Are they going to be suffering? Are people going to do something to them in our home environment if we're not able to take them in? Limiting admissions seemed like the most natural path to a higher placement rate. But if we do that, what happens to those cats? You know, I put in quotes, they don't like change. Very few people enjoy change. But we for sure knew that a lot of people were going to struggle with our organizational changes. And those are internal folks as well as external, people in the community, rescue groups, our own staff, our own volunteers, our own donors. There's a huge process to getting people on board when you make big changes. Is someone going to harm the cats? That's our number one priority, right? We want to make sure that all of the animals that we serve and those who need our services are safe, that they're happy, that they're healthy. So if our actions are going to disrupt that in any way, we want to make sure we're taking that into consideration. As we considered making changes to our hold protocols for stray cats, there's that huge fear of what if someone is actually looking for this cat. Now, mind you, in our baseline data and all the way back to 2004 that we have the data for, less than 2% of the cats that came in stray were actually going home to their original owner, their original family from which they were missing. But what if someone is looking for this cat? It was a big worry that we had before we considered making changes. How much is changing going to cost? As you remember from the slides, a couple of slides back, most of our fundraising, or most of our revenue comes from fundraising. How are we going to figure out where this money is going to come from to make the changes, and how much is it going to cost our organization? How much manpower, or better suited for animal welfare, how much woman power are we going to need to make this program successful? Are we going to need more staff? Do we need different volunteers? Are the skill sets appropriate? What's it going to take to pull it off? You know, does this actually make us crazy cat people instead of just cat people? And I think that's debatable, but we're pretty sure, yes, it in fact did make us crazy cat people, and it's okay. We own it. All right. So after all of those kind of worries and concerns, these are the things that we narrowed down as being most important. This is what we really wanted to focus on. People bring us animals because they want to do the right thing. If someone wanted to abuse a cat that they found on the side of the road, they would not go to the trouble of contacting our agency or put it in a box or a Rubbermaid or all kinds of other contraptions that they bring animals to us in. Drive it to a cul-de-sac in the middle of Hilliard, Ohio, which is not super easy to find, and bring it to us. They just wouldn't go to the trouble. They're bringing the cat to our organization, or attempting to bring the cat to our organization, because they want to do the right thing for that animal. They wanted to have an opportunity to go to a home. They wanted to have an opportunity to get veterinary care. They were motivated by the right things to come to us to help. And at our core, kind of deep down gut, that's what we believe people want to do. So we decided to give up some of that fear of what would happen if we didn't offer instant admission to every animal. Ultimately, we wanted to help, period. Bottom line, we wanted every person that came to our organization with an animal to walk away feeling like we helped them. Whatever it took, we helped them. So that is a box that we need to check with every client interaction that we have. We didn't want to limit anything. Again, the answers that seem to be swirling around us to get our placement rate higher was to limit what we did. But as a population of staff members, volunteers, board members, and even our donors, we wanted to do more. We actually wanted to expand. We didn't want to limit our programs or services. And so that's really what we were focused on doing. What more could we do to yield fewer animals in the door, higher quality of care for our public, and make sure that the animals that did come into our organization had the very best care, and the people who came to our organization were offered an expanded menu of services. So here's what we did. The brainstormed, and I want you guys to take a really close look at this matrix system that we put together. I'm going to do a little pulse check here to make sure that that's reading clearly for you. I know that the graphic doesn't have the best kind of quality. So thumbs up if you can read what the words say and it looks good to you. Thumbs down if it's difficult for you to see. I can also make sure that I get a copy of this to you. Good tool for leading decision making and guiding conversations at your organization. Okay, looks like you guys are doing pretty well with that. All right, so I'm just going to kind of walk through the different columns. You see all the way on the left in that gold bar, it says surrender. We basically put this matrix together for surrendered animals and for stray animals. Our organization is a law enforcement agency. We do cruelty investigations. The kind of decision-making that we had to look at for kind of client interactions in the field is very, very different. So this is really focused on our intake or admissions area. So we broke this down into two sections, surrender and stray. So that left bar is the type of situation, kind of animal situation. Then the next bar that you'll see moving in one step, not for any placement, potential for alternative placement, and potential for adoption program, is really about the cat. So in these situations, do we think the cat is maybe a good fit for rescue, but not so much for our adoption program for whatever reason? Do we think that this might be a good barn cat? So those are examples of alternative placements. Potential for our adoption program, do we think this cat is a good fit both from a health perspective and a temperament perspective? And then not for any placement. So it could either be health or behavior. It could be behavioral history. It could be a hit by a car cat that has very extensive medical needs. For whatever reason, upon evaluation, we know for sure this is not a cat that we would have available for either the adoption program or a rescue transfer kind of program. So it's the type of animal intake, surrender or stray, then the situation, kind of the cat qualities, which kind of bucket does that cat fall into. And then the next line of bars, the critical and non-critical, is really about the situation. How urgent is the situation for the people involved and for the animal? Good example for an urgent situation would be somebody who's evicted today. They have all their boxes and supplies that are in their car, and it's right now. Maybe it's an animal that's bitten someone. It's a safety issue, and it's very urgent at this moment. It could be a situation where the finder of a stray cat really loves the stray cat, wants, wishes well for it. You could find that they want the very best, but they have horrible allergies, and they're swelling up right in front of you. That's a critical situation, right? We need to take action at that moment. And then there's the non-critical. My cat has had this problem behavior for 1.5 years, and now I'm deciding I'm tired of it. It could be, I found this cat. It's fine in my house. I don't really want another cat, but maybe it's not a critical or an urgent situation. And then across the top of the document, you see open and at capacity. So this is about the shelter itself. Do we have cages empty and available? Do we have, plenty of staff, no one's on maternity leave, or are we in good shape from that perspective? Do we have the financial resources, or is this a situation where we just had a hoarding case through our cruelty investigations program? We're at capacity, it's June, height of kitten season, everything's popping at the seams. So we put together this matrix so that we could brainstorm what types of services or options would we want to make available for the public in each of these boxes. So we could have a critical situation for a highly adoptable kitten, and our facility is at capacity. What do we want to be able to offer them? We wanted to be more flexible and more creative with our offerings for critical situations because we wanted to honor that kind of founding principle that we were there to help animals in need and we were there to help people in need. So always making sure we have something available for the critical people. And then how do we help the non-critical situations, how do we help them be successful so that that cat can come to us when it has its best option for our best potential for our adoption program? So I'm going to ask again for a pulse check. If that seems clear to you, just give me a thumbs up. And if you've got questions on that, you can do a thumbs down, but I'll also remind you to please use the question bar so that we can keep collecting those questions for the end of the session. So get them in early so we don't have kind of a struggle at the end. That was a helpful tool for you. We can make that available to you. But if you're considering changes for your organization, this is an excellent framework to have discussion with your team members about what's important to them and what kinds of things would they like to be able to offer. I will tell you that this was a really fun exercise for us because we were able to sort of brainstorm what do we wish we could do. Not necessarily what do we have the capacity to do at that point back in 2014, but this is where we came up with some of our best ideas, was just deciding, oh, in this situation, I would really love to be able to give them like all the supplies and equipment they need to be successful. And that is exactly what we did. So before we got totally started, we did a lot of prepping. We figured out this is going to cost us some money. So we started right there in the beginning with a program called Revisionary Leadership. And it was a major gift giving opportunity. We talked with major donors and said, hey, we need to change everything. Ultimately, there are animals in our community that are at risk, and we know how to fix it. So what do you say? Can you give us a hand? And basically then we kept prepping some more. We had a rollout calendar. We had all kinds of discussions with staff members, with volunteers, with donors. We were making big changes, so we took the steps necessary to get everybody on board before we went live. We answered a lot of questions. This is a document. You won't be able to read it very well, but we can give you examples of it or distribute it if that's helpful. We went through an exercise with staff members on what they should say to explain our changes and what they really should not say. So do say we're expanding our programs and services to meet the needs of more people and more animals. Don't say we're limiting admissions. That's not what we were doing, but because that was a communication that was so frequently heard, and because we were going to be encouraging appointments, and because we were changing our admissions process, we didn't want somebody to just put those words into play. So we gave them not just a don't say these things, but do say these things. And that was a huge tool for our team members. Okay, so here's what we actually decided to do, and it was a lot. First, we were going to continue to offer what we had always offered, which is admission to our shelter for consideration in our adoption program. So if somebody walked in, we were always going to offer immediate admission for any person or animal who was in distress. So if there was a very urgent situation, if there were no other alternatives, if the animal or the person was at risk or in a dangerous situation, we said yes, do it. Whether you have an appointment, you don't have an appointment, we will always take that animal or help that person who is in immediate need or danger. This created a tremendous amount of relief for the people who are more reluctant to change. We said this is a safety net. We're going to have it in place. No one on my staff is ever going to say, get the heck out, or we're going to delay you for somebody who is in crisis. We're going to help. And that's important that we've maintained that. All right. Next, we offered low-cost, immediate veterinary exam with vaccinations, testing for feline leukemia and FIV, and parasite control, whether it was prevention or treatment. So when a person comes to us with any animal, and again, we're focusing our conversation on cats, but really for any animal, they're going to get an immediate veterinary exam while the person is still in the building to talk with us. So we'll go over a list of what happens during that exam, but we call those help session exams, and it's $15 for an adult cat. I will say this, we waive that fee all the time. So if there's somebody who can't or doesn't want to pay it, we're still going to help them out. But it is, we do ask for $15. Now, our current pricing for feline leukemia and FIV combo tests is, I don't know, somewhere in the hunt of $14. So this is not a money-making venture by any means. Complimentary promotion on our newly created RescueNet and Pet FBI, and we're going to spend a minute a little further into the presentation to talk about each of those. But RescueNet is a closed Facebook group for partner agencies who help in cat placement, so rescue groups and some smaller shelters in the area. We post the information about the cats that are coming in directly with photos to that site to share information and try to give a person who's coming in more than one option, not just our organization. And Pet FBI is a pets found by internet site, and it's a lost and found search, which is started here in Columbus, but is actually available to all of you who are listening, so we'll show you how to get involved in that. Intervention supplies. So we wanted to make sure from that matrix, one of a wish list items from our staff members is to say, I just wish we could give them everything they need to be successful. Done. We did it. We now offer food, litter boxes, you name it. I mean, there's a whole lot that goes into it, but we can do soft paws for cats who have scratching behaviors that are causing problems at home. We'll even give them cleaning supplies and equipment if they're having issues with litter box. We'll talk more about it in a second, but we recognize that there was a cost associated often to people either keeping a cat longer in their home or keeping the cat forever in their home. And if there's things that we could do to help make that a smoother transition, we wanted to. We subsidize adoption fees to encourage adoption. So our adoption program went up considerably with this. It kind of boggles the mind that just a couple dollars makes a difference. But when we implemented our revision, along with all the front end, so that intake side of the business, we also implemented reduced adoption fees. It's just $10 to adopt an adult cat here, or $25 for a kitten. Now, if you remember, I said it was $15 to do that help session exam. And it's only $10 to adopt a spayed or neutered, vaccinated, microchipped, and tested cat. Our baseline here is that it shouldn't cost more than $25 for someone to save a cat's life. So whether you do it on the front end in the admissions side of things, what we call the Animal Support Center, or you do it from an adoption perspective, we wanted the message to be to our community, it's not going to cost you more than $25 to save a cat's life. And there's the next piece, low-cost spay or neuter. So if, for example, you came in for a help session appointment with a stray cat and you found out, wow, it's healthy, it's not going to bring disease and famine into my home or impact my other animals with some sort of horrible communicable disease. I kind of like it, and it's got testicles. It's just $10 for us to do a spay or a neuter for an animal that someone wants to be able to keep. So again, $15 for that help session fee, $10 for the spay or neuter, doesn't cost more than $25 to save a cat's life, which for most people is really attainable. We do waive those fees routinely, so if someone can't provide that and they really want to do the right thing for the cat, we're going to step in and help them out. Again, if you have questions, go ahead and type them out because I'd love to answer them at the end. Okay, so let's take a look at what those help session exams include. I do want to take a second to tell you that part of our transformation was changing our language. So we don't call that side of our business intake or admissions anymore because we offer so much more than admissions. We call that the Animal Support Center. So you come in for a help session exam, you get options, one of which is going to be admission to the shelter. So in the support center, for our cats, they do a full physical exam, the combo testing, vaccination. We don't do a rabies vaccine at this point. We can make arrangements for it, but we don't do that as part of that initial help session exam. If someone's going to be keeping the cat, then we'll do it at that point. Stranded, so dewormer, we've got flea and tick prevention. Microchip scanning, of course. We get a weight. We look at the condition of the animal, their teeth and gums, so everything goes into that physical exam. We take a photo and we do a fecal exam if needed. So it's a pretty comprehensive health assessment to be able to figure out what's going on with this kitty. I will tell you the dental and just taking a look at the mouth and gums, my goodness, so many of the people coming in to surrender a cat they've had for a long time, they have never looked in their cat's mouth, and they had no idea often that that animal is really struggling with a dental disease. Okay, so at that help session exam, we're getting to know the individual animal and their condition. We're getting to know the person and their situation. Again, is this critical? Is it not critical? What's the outcome that they want? Is this a matter of trying to get them into a new home, or are they still focused on trying to keep the pet successfully in their own home? Trying to get an idea of what their desired outcome is really, really helps to focus the options that we're creating for them. In that help session exam, in that first we call it first hands-on appointment or help session, these are the types of services or types of goods that we can provide. So we've got a dog crate, litter boxes, litter, canned and dry food, kitten milk replacer and bottles. Of course, we do education on how to administer and how much do they need and how to stimulate those little kittens. Blankets and towels, newspaper, I think you get the idea here. If you've got a kitty who has been inappropriately eliminating outside of the litter box and you still really want to work with that kitty, of course, we're going to do everything that we can to motivate you to still want to work with that kitty. But if we'll start that kind of conversation about what kind of litter box are you using, how much or how often have you been changing the litter, have you recently changed the litter, everything that you know to do to counsel. We may find that there's some really easy, kind of low-hanging fruit to try to modify that behavior. So we'll give them an extra litter box with litter. Maybe we'll give them a hooded litter box if they don't already have one. Maybe they didn't have enough litter boxes for the individual cat. We will not only give them those supplies and equipment, but we'll even give them a $25 gift card to what we call here in Central Ohio is the Andersons. It's a general store, and they have everything from toilets to fresh peppers. I mean, it's a huge offering, and they have an amazing wine selection. So you can use that $25 gift card to get the extra odor neutralizing carpet spray so that maybe they can stop eliminating in the spot that's been a problem for them in the past. If there are things that we don't have here in the shelter, like what's listed above, the Andersons has a big pet section, so we can give them resources to go follow up and get the additional supplies that they need. Or if it's food, and we gave them this round of food and they intend to keep the pet longer, they can use the $25 for that. We all have heard many times, I'm sure, the statement that, oh, my girlfriend will kick me to the curb if she sees I brought home a cat, or my husband's going to kill me, I have too many cats. Or, we've heard it before. Use the $25 gift card to buy a bottle of wine. We don't care. Do what you need to do to help keep that pet successful. But ultimately, we wanted to be as creative as possible and really address every single barrier that there would be to keeping that pet successfully in the home. Another good example would be a litter of kittens. Maybe they're 6 weeks old and they could be really healthy, but we want for them to grow bigger and have more socialization before they're ready for our adoption program. This would be a good situation where we would provide, of course, that help session exam. We know that they're disease-free or doing really well and growing nicely. We have an idea of what they're eating. We'll provide them with that food with a dog crate and a litter box and the litter and instructions on how to provide care. And we'll say, come on back and bring these kitties in 2 weeks when they're ready for that adoption program. So you can see that we try a whole variety of different interventions to keep that pet successfully in the home or to keep it there until it's appropriate to come back for adoption. Again, if somebody sees that these are the things that need to happen, they want them to be available for adoption, but they don't have the capacity to do it at home, or if the instance is really critical, we're going to take those cats and kittens. By offering enough opportunities and creative alternatives to sheltering for the people who are in that non-critical stage, it means we can say yes to the critical ones every time, every day, and that's really been the secret. RescueNet, this is that closed Facebook group. You can see just kind of like a screenshot here. So in each of the posts, we'll take a photo of the animals from that help session exam. These are not glamour shots. These are mostly like proof it's a kitten. This is what color it is. But we'll post the findings from our help session exam. So how old are they? What are they eating? Have they been successfully vaccinated? Have they been tested? Put all that information right out there. And then rescue groups can, and these are approved rescue groups that we've added, they can sign on and say, gosh, I'm really interested in this one, and I'll be in to pick it up on this day. What's nice about that is you don't have the phone calls and emails. Rescue groups are all on the same page because they can see, and the comments are date stamped. So it's a really quick tool. People can see on their phone, get the information that they need. and everyone's on the same page. I highly recommend that. I'd be happy to talk with you about ways to set that up in your community. Pet FBI is a lost and found internet site, and you can post a photo and search by zip codes or by neighborhood. Really, really helpful tool. By taking photos during that help session exam, it alleviated that concern of, oh my gosh, what if someone is looking for this pet and it's not here? So if someone brings in a stray adult cat, really anything that's 8 weeks and over, because who's really missing their under 8 weeks kitten? Anything 8 weeks and over gets a photo posted here. So if someone comes in with a stray cat that they found and they'd like to take it back into their home, either until it's appropriate for our adoption program, until we have space in our adoption program, or if they want to keep it, we've posted that photo whether the animal is here in our shelter or not. And everyone who, like a good Samaritan who would bring in a cat, understands the information will be posted, and if we're contacted by a potential owner, that they would be notified. And that's petfbi.org if you want to find out more information about how you can add your pets. Okay, so here's the deal. It worked. We implemented in August of 2014 in the first 12 months of our revision, so fully implemented all of the things that we have mentioned. We recognized a 19% increase in cat adoptions. We decreased cat euthanasia by a whopping 70% in that 12-month period versus the 12-month period before that. Our cat placement rate climbed from 34% in 2013 to 66% in the first 12 months. 551 cats were served, so had that help session exam, and not admitted. So we were successful in eliminating the issue and keeping them out of the shelter in the first place. 853 cats were deferred, so we did the help session exam and said, come on back on this date. 505 of those cats came back. Well, what happened to the others? Well, we do follow-up calls. So if somebody was scheduled to come in and they didn't come in, we're following up. Largely, we're finding that people are keeping them, that they found the original owner, or that they found somebody who did want to keep them. And because we're doing that follow-up, we're able to schedule them for spay, neuter, or follow-up vaccines to make sure that they're still in good hands. So I think you'll agree that that's a good success, but it didn't stop there. If we look at calendar 2015, so this was the first full calendar year post-implementation of revision, we decreased the average length of stay in our adoption program by 3 days, which was a reduction of 28%. I will tell you our 2016 average length of stay in the cat adoption program was just 6 days. 6 days. When I came to the organization in 2008, our average length of stay in the adoption program was more than 70 days, 70. We decreased cat euthanasia by 70% year over year. And these are euthanasia reasons. We decreased euthanasia for medical condition by 40%. For temperament, so fractious or very withdrawn behavior, down 74%. Respiratory infection, which we track separately than other medical conditions, down 86%. And euthanasia for lack of space, 100%. We have not euthanized a single animal for space since October of 2014 by managing the process on the front end and helping people find other solutions. Yeah, I have to underline that because it's not good. Okay, so you remember this slide, right? Yeah. So 2014, better. 2015, really, really better. Boom. 2016, our placement rate for cats was 75%. Are we done? No, we're not done. We have a lot more work to do, but I think you can agree that we are in a way better place and our community is a lot happier, and so are our staff and our volunteers and our donors. Here's some feedback that we've gotten. Pretty much right away at onset, and then 6 months and 1 year, we had really nice coverage in our newspaper and on cameras, interviews with the local television stations. This got excellent response. People who said, what the heck are you doing, Capital Area Humane Society? Let's get those numbers up. They paid attention. So we had a really great way to share our good news. We got handwritten notes, donations, and even cookies from members of the community who were pleased. That was a big one. The haters were converted. So people who had been really stressed out about our organization and its stats, we were able to convince them right from the beginning that we were intended on doing the right things and that we were going to put a lot of different resources and creativity into coming up with solutions, and they appreciated the approach that we took. Even our hate mail is better. Just very quickly, I'll give you an example. I had a communications manager come down to me one morning and say, "Oh my gosh, we're getting not great feedback on Facebook, and there's comments and review." I'm like, "Well, what happened?" And she read off a posting from a woman who had brought in a litter of kittens, and we determined in the help session exam that they had a neurological condition. And she was very upset that they had this neurological condition and we weren't able to offer something other than euthanasia. And so she took the cats and she went to OSU, College of Veterinary Medicine, that's Ohio State, and had them see a neurologist who confirmed that they did have a neurological condition, but it was actually pretty workable and they would be able to grow up and live happy, normal lives. And this woman was upset. And I looked at my communications manager and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's the best complaint ever." Here's somebody who wanted to do the right thing. We were able to give them, with just $15, a really thorough health assessment to identify a problem, one that we would have euthanized those kittens for because we didn't have the capacity to meet their needs. She took that information, went to specialty care, had those kittens diagnosed, and they're on their way to happy, healthy lives. That's amazing. So we responded accordingly. "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for doing this and following through. What a best case scenario, and we're so happy that you did this, and the kittens are in great shape." And the woman said, "You're totally right." And she actually is the one who brought us cookies. Pretty happy about that. Some insights for you. For heaven's sakes, if you want to do this, please prepare. Take the steps, do the sessions with your donors, do the sessions with your staff members. Figure out what they're worried about and lead with that. Call yourself out. Don't give someone else a chance. If your statistics, if your performance isn't what you want it to be, you be the one to say it's not okay, that you're not satisfied, that you want to do something to change, and people will help you. Lead by addressing those worst fears. Everybody has them for any change. It could be changing your hours of operation and nothing more. It could be going to appointments. It could be only taking polka-dotted cats on Wednesdays. Whatever it is, figure out what people are most freaked out about and then address that fear. If you start there and then work towards the things that people really aren't worried about, you'll find much success. Identify those stakeholders and communicate in advance and often. Everybody knew we were making changes. Whether they liked us, didn't like us, I invited them here for pizza and told them what we were going to do. I showed them those baseline stats and said, "Here's why we're motivated to make a big change." Give them the opportunity to ask questions. As you're making your changes, first do your best to get your baseline data. But if you don't have it, at least make sure you're tracking your progress as you go. You measure what matters, and if you can do that, you can demonstrate for the worrywarts that, hey, it's working. Or if something's not working, you can identify that early on and then address that. Put your focus and your energies on the things that aren't working and improve it from there, remembering what is the best part of the pencil. You can erase. You're not done yet. Until it's right, you don't have to stop. And perhaps more importantly than anything that I have on this list, I want you to know, in this process, we answered the phone. We took people's calls live, and that was not the case for the organization previously. I believe that we reduced admissions simply by answering the phone and answering questions that people have about their cats and about cats that they found and what is our process. If they can't reach you on the phone, they put that kitten in a Rubbermaid tin with weird holes cut out the side, and they bring it in. And when they're right there in front of you with the animal because they didn't know what else to do, and you take the time to explain the process and give them options, they may wind up saying, "Well, but I'm here now," and leave the cat anyway. Or had you spoken with them on the phone in advance, given them the options, allowed them to schedule an appointment, they may very well have changed their mind and done something very differently. Don't answer the phone. I do want you to try it at home. I do want your questions today or in the future. There's my contact information. And now it's your turn to do the talking and ask those questions. That's it for me, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was wonderful. Man, if they ever say the proof is in the pudding, those numbers don't lie. Those were beautiful numbers. And we have questions. I know, piling in. But I'm going to take cuts real quick because I've had a question for a long time since I saw you present last time. You stated prepare, prepare, prepare. Can you talk about what you had to do to get RescueNet set up before the wellness exams?
Just to be clear, the RescueNet, is that what you're saying? I think we got cut off, but RescueNet, it really was very simple to set up. If you use Facebook, it's a closed Facebook group, so no one can see it unless they're invited. I do recommend that you have just one representative from an organization, from each organization representing, so that you don't have 3 people from the same organization answering that yes, they can foster the cat or when they can pick it up. It gets confusing, so having just one representative is the best way to do it, really clean.
Mm-hmm. What percentage of animals do you think are finding their outcome through RescueNet?
Honestly, it's a slimmer number than we had anticipated. And I didn't mention actually the best part of RescueNet and probably the most significant. Any rescue group that pulls a cat from RescueNet, so our partner agencies, if they see a cat or kittens on there and they say, yep, we can take those, our organization ensures that every single cat or kitten pulled off of RescueNet has been spayed or neutered, vaccinated, tested negative for feline leukemia and FIV, and microchipped. So if they're itty-bitty kittens or kittens who are sick or adult cats who are sick and it can't happen before they go to that rescue group, we will take them back at any point until that animal is ready for adoption through that rescue group and do it for free. That was our commitment. That's how much we wanted them to step up and help us out.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question is from Katie, and she wants to know, what's the time frame between when you started soliciting major gifts and when you actually started implementing the changes?
We started soliciting gifts in, spring of 2014, and we started implementing changes in August of 2014. So there was a lot of conversations and meetings before we sort of went live in August of 2014.
Right. Thank you. In that time, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we didn't have the answers to all of the questions about how much it was going to cost because we didn't know how many people would take advantage of the different offerings. And that was, a trial and error process, but I will say we assumed it would cost us a lot more money than it actually did.
Oh, good. That leads perfectly into our next question. During that time, did you have to increase your vet resources, or did you figure that out later, or did you have to do it at all?
What we did have to increase is our client care staffing. So in order to make sure we were answering the phone live, we needed to make sure that we were staffed longer. We expanded our hours for the Animal Support Center. So while we didn't do walk-ins the way that we used to, we still help people who walk in the building, but because we were encouraging appointments, and scheduling. We're the one answering the phone to actually do the scheduling of the appointments. And we've expanded our hours. So we started doing appointments at 8:30 in the morning and going until 6:30, whereas before it was only from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. and it was walk-in, so come one, come all. So we had to change the way that we were staffed. It didn't take that much more for our veterinary staffing. We did add 1 full and 1 part-time registered veterinary technician to help with those help session exams.
And when you were covering the handy-dandy decision matrix, is that happening on the phone when the client calls the first time, or is that when they're coming in for the wellness appointments?
The handy-dandy matrix was a tool that we use to decide what programs and services do we want to be able to offer. So we actually don't reference that when it comes time for our clients because our staff have been trained on the whole kind of plethora of offerings that we have for people. So it's up to our staff at that help session exam to decide what's in the best interest of the animal, the person, and the organization for that client situation. And they have the flexibility to use any one of those options or multiple.
Perfect. So that's an internal document. Thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
Carol wants a little more information on the term rehoming euthanasia. Is that a number, a guess, or an accurate number of animals that would have been euthanized before and were not?
So when we use the term rehoming euthanasia, we're talking about the euthanasias for animals by category who are here for a potential at rehoming. So the category of stray, all stray cats, that includes the cat who has been hit by a car and is lateral. That one actually would never have been a candidate for our adoption program if it's severely injured and it's dying, but its category is stray cat, and so it is in that number as we calculate. It does not include cats that are here for veterinary service or owner-requested euthanasia. Those are animals who aren't here for a potential placement.
That makes sense. Brianne has a different kind of question. When your shelter's in a rural area, would lowering cat adoption fees be realistic, especially when you're already losing money on cats if their adoption fee is at $75?
Yeah, there's absolutely no way that we're making money on our cat adoptions. No way at all. But by increasing our live release rate and offering creative solutions to our community's challenges, we did see an increase in donations. And I'm not just talking about donations from members of the public served in our animal support center. It's from our major donors or just community donors. That coverage that said, hey, we've more than doubled our live release rate, we saw significant gifts come in as a result.
Sweet. This is Kate, and I'll also mention, for those of you on the Million Cat Yahoo list, we've heard from a number of rural shelters and urban shelters with small budgets that have managed to lower their adoption fees and come out ahead by reducing length of stay, by reducing medical costs, as well as by increasing donations and by increasing the number of adoptions. So for some cats that wouldn't have gotten adopted out, you may have made quite an investment in them. You still don't collect the $75 if the cat doesn't make it out to an adopter.
And
so encourage those of you who are wondering about that to add your question to Million Cat Yahoo discussion group if you're part of that. And if you're not part of that, join today.
And on that note, and Kate, you can answer this too, did anyone struggle with staff or volunteers who felt like the new low adoption fee encouraged unfit adoption?
That's always going to be a question when you change your adoption process or your adoption fee. We had the same quality of adopters, and we were able to address those questions. Again, as I recommend, lead with their worst fear. That's a worst fear. Is that you reduce the fee so much that horrible, shady people are going to come in and do terrible things for cats. We still have the same conversations with our cat adopters, and we have a really tremendous success rate there with matching people with pets. So it has not been a worry for us at all.
Very good. So Cindy says, we're preparing to build a low-cost spay and neuter clinic to reduce the numbers of cats dumped and unwanted, but we don't see how you're getting those costs down to $10. Is that a number based on outside funding? We'd welcome any of your input reducing these costs.
Oh yeah, there's no way that our spay or neuters cost us $10. That's just the fee that we wanted to assign to people who came to the support center and were looking for a solution to keep them out of the shelter. So if they were willing to keep the animal, great. That means that we didn't house it, feed it, provide care for it, spay or neuter, and try to get it up for adoption. We were able to reduced all of the expenses associated with that process. And remember, that baseline data, 3.5 hours every single day euthanizing cats in 2013. So we had significant costs that we were saving by, keeping that cat out of the shelter. So heck yeah, we would do it for free, but we were willing to do it for $10 as a commitment from the person. So.
And this is Kate. I was just looking at an early Million Cat Challenge webinar from Barbara Carr, who is with the area SPCA. And she mentioned that their average donation, if I'm remembering this rightly, was $25 for just a person using their spay-neuter clinic, $65 for someone off their waiting list who was offered free spay and neuter at their clinic for a donation while waiting for an appointment for their cat to come into the shelter. So remember, even if you don't charge it, sometimes you can make up for that with donations.
Don't forget to ask.
I will say that the thing that you have to do to get those donations is ask for them. I mean, some of them fall out of the sky, but if you train your staff to say, you know, your fee today is $10, would you like to round up? Or would you like to consider making a gift to help the other animals in our care? The answer very often is, yeah, absolutely, sure, here you go. Here's $100, which is crazy. But if you don't ask for it, you won't get it.
Especially when you share your costs. This was $150. Would you like to meet us halfway? Or how about 50? If you throw out a number to give them a baseline, it's very helpful.
Absolutely.
Our next question is from Tamara, and she wants to know, what about people that need vet care? We don't have a clinic, and we're trying to pay some of the fees so people can keep their pets. But we rapidly went through $50,000 last year trying to cover vet care for owned animals.
I just want to, well, I guess we don't have live access to the question itself, but if there was something that we couldn't provide in-house, we tried to be creative about making recommendations to low-cost clinics in the area to see if that was something that they could get help with another organization. I guess I would recommend to the person who asked that question, do you have veterinary technicians who can do kind of a cursory exam that would volunteer their time and be able to at least give more information to veterinary practices over the phone to say, here's the situation I'm dealing with, as opposed to having that client call in and say, my cat is sick. Is there something we can do to give them more specific information about what's wrong to help guide that practice in giving real quotes on what the veterinary costs would be or any recommendations for other places that could provide care?
Okay, so we're just now at the top of the hour, but we have 4 questions left. So if everyone wants to hang tight, we're going to get through them as quickly as possible. Lots of good questions, though. We have another one about RescueNet. They want to know, did you start the program or is it one that you joined? And can they find it online?
We started the program. It's not one that you can join outside of our area because it's organizations here locally that shelter or serve cats, but you could absolutely create your own. You could just call it the XYZ Humane Society Rescue Web, or it could just be a closed Facebook group with your organization's name. I would recommend signing an MOU with any organization who is going to be part of that. Set the rules for how you communicate, what information's on RescueNet or on that Facebook page, what information is appropriate to share outside. Just set some parameters to how people behave and what information will be available. If you do want to set up a closed Facebook group like that, we'd be happy to help you with that process. Just send me an email and I'll get you connected to the team member here who did that for us.
Oh, thank you for that. Our last couple questions are all kind of connected, so I want to give you a minute to really answer this one. You mentioned prepare, and they want to know, okay, what did you do? How long, what sort of steps were you taking to build a campaign before you started fundraising? How much time would you give for preparing, and what are the first couple steps to getting started?
The bulk of our time and energy was not on the fundraising piece. Again, we wanted to get started, and if we found that we needed additional resources, we could add them as we go. But it was hard to articulate exactly what the cost would be because we didn't know which services the community would want to pick up on. So that wasn't really so much on the fundraising. The preparation that we did was with that matrix and our team in-house saying, what do we want to be able to do, and then how do we get that done? So we know we want to give supplies and equipment. Okay, well, what do we need to do that? We need a storage space. We need to start asking our donors in-kind gifts that are of supplies and equipment. We need to reach out to retailers or others who could provide it. So for each item that we wanted, what do we need in place to make it happen? We wanted to do immediate veterinary exams. Well, in order to do that, we had to have an appointment-based system. Okay, how are we going to set up appointments? What staff do we need? So those are the questions that we asked ourselves. And when we saw, okay, we need this new staff, we need to communicate to the public that we're going to admissions by appointment, we need to change our website, we need to talk with our staff members, our donors, our volunteers, our key stakeholders, the people who are most critical of our organization. Let's get them in a room and give them pizza and show them our baseline data, show them what we're planning, when we're going to start it, answer their questions, and make them feel like they are a part of the process and the solution evolving around them. that work that we did on the front end before we ever switched the hours or switched our process is what made us successful. And again, answer the phone.
And when you made the changes, would people find out when they called to elicit the services, or did you do any social media? We have a question about how you got the word out about the changes.
It really did help to use the media that I mentioned. We didn't go live with that story until we were 2 months in, because we wanted to know what's the initial data look like, what are the changes, what do they look like in practice, as opposed to sending out a big press release, hey, we're changing everything, stay tuned. People would have been in panic. So we did it quietly for about 2 months, and then we did the press. To help people understand the changes that we were making. We put alerts on our website. We certainly used social media. A lot of it was really just answering the phone and saying to the caller, we're doing things a little bit differently. Our system now is to have an appointment. During the appointment, we're going to check the health of the animal and learn about your situation, and we're going to make recommendations on how we can help you. This is what you should do on that first visit.
All right, that's our last question. Thank you all so much for being here, and a million thanks to you, Rachel, for the work that you're doing, for the time that you took to prepare and present this. It's a good thing my phone was on mute, because I was jumping and cheering, especially as you got to those last slides. Share your success. But I think the quote of the day is, even our hate mail is better.
Even our hate mail is better.
That is just fantastic.
We'll work for cookies.
Yeah.
True. It's our pink strawberry starburst. Thank you, everyone.
And for all of you who are here, thank you to our participating Million Cat Challenge shelters. And if you're listening in and you're not part of the Million Cat Challenge, I encourage you to join at millioncatchallenge.org or email us at info@millioncatchallenge.org. And not just to learn from other people who have great ideas, but also to share your own. Maybe you'll implement a big, great program like Revision, and you'll want to share it. Or maybe you just have one brilliant cat life-saving hack. But I know that every single person here is doing great work and innovating and has ideas to share, and you can amplify that just by joining the Million Cat Challenge and joining our discussion group. So let us know what you're doing out there to help cats. Thank you all.